Welcome to Between the Poles, the podcast where we dive deep into the heart of the pole community. I'm your host, Caroline. Here, it's not just about the tricks and the spins. It's about the stories, the people, and the connections that make this community so special. Every episode, we sit down with pole artists, studio owners, and inspiring voices to explore their journeys, challenges, and passions. So grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and let's get real. This is Between the Poles. If you enjoy this podcast episode, don't forget to follow us on Instagram and YouTube, where we share behind-the-scenes contents, bonus clips, and more from each episode. Welcome, everybody, and welcome to Between the Poles podcast. Sorry. Excited to be here today. We are gonna have a little hour chat with Julia, which most of you will know from her Instagram platform, named Hang with Julia. You also are very well known for the pole retreats that you do. You also have a platform on Patreon where people can learn with you. Welcome on the podcast, Julia. How are you today?
Thank you so much. I am good. I actually just came back from teaching 2 classes, so I'm happy I could take a shower before this call.
And then we'll get into it, but today, this is a pre-recorded podcast for listeners and viewers. At this point, you know it. But today, Julia, you kind of started the countdown to your next retreat, and we're going to kind of get into all that good stuff. But I'm so excited to kind of have all the details on those. I do like to start the podcast the same way for everybody, just to give a little bit of a background stories to our viewers and our listeners. Can you tell us, when did you start polling? How did you even figure that polling existed? And then, kind of just a little bit of you as a baby poller.
Yeah. So I started polling a little over 4 years ago. And I actually took my trial classes before COVID. So that's more than 4 years ago. And it was my sister's idea originally because she wanted a fun family activity for my dad and my little sister and I. And I honestly, I don't think I thought much. She said, "Oh, let's take a pole trial class." And I didn't even know what it was. I also didn't think of strippers at all. I had no idea. I was like, okay, why not? My dad sadly didn't join. I think he would have loved it. But, so it was just my sister and we took a trial class at one of the studios here in Copenhagen in Denmark where I live. And that class was okay, but we were asked to improvise a sexy walk around the pole, and just improvising in a trial class is so uncomfortable. So I remember thinking what am I supposed to improvise? I don't know what I'm doing. And then I thought, instructors are so different from studio to studio, no matter what you're doing, whether it's pole or Pilates or something else. I was like, let's try a different studio and let's try a different instructor. It might be different. So we went to a different class the next week, also just a trial class, and that was so much fun. And I remember my instructor, her name is Josephine. She had big curly red hair and she had these 2 scrunchies in her hair, and she had these 2 big pigtails, and she just looked like this little pole fairy. And we were just learning basic spins, super basic stuff, but I remember it being so fun. And I remember thinking, okay, I want to try this. And I think this was around November, December. And then I didn't start straight away because then Christmas came, and then I had exams in January, and then February, it was like an intention. I am going to start this. And then the lockdown hits in March, and I think I had taken one more trial class before then. And then the studios were closed, and I was like, damn, I lost my window to start this. And I had it in the back of my head as something I really wanted to do, but I wasn't really started just yet. And then when the lockdown then stopped and the studios opened again, then I was like, okay, let's go. So I started with another trial class and then started doing beginners classes, and I mean, I've been smitten ever since then. Yeah.
I was going to say, then you're at really high level for how long you've been polling. Because
Yeah,
I thought you had been polling for way longer than that.
Yeah, no. But I was also I was really, really, am still obsessed with it. And so, um, I think I did it a lot in the start. I still do it a lot. I think I also did it faster than I would recommend other beginners. I think, I had a lot of shoulder pain in the start because my shoulders were just not ready for all the things that I was doing. Um, but yeah, and then being a student, I have quite a flexible schedule. So I also have the time and the means and the flexibility in my schedule to do it. I could do it every day if I wanted to. My body wouldn't be able to allow me to do that. But like, so that's also been a big help and a freedom to have a schedule that allows for that. Um,
Okay, then it brings me to a question that I try to ask as many guests as I can remember to, because
mhm,
for some reason my viewers and my listeners really like this question. There's kind of two camps. The camp of people that were very active or super strong from the beginning, that had a lot of cross training, that
mhm,
from the start could like invert, but then they needed like the technique or the mobility or stuff like that.
mhm,
Or the camp that was like, oh my God, this is going to change my life, but holy cow, I cannot invert yet.
mhm.
In what camp were you?
So I was in the first camp. I was like inverting in my trial classes as well, because that's something that most studios teach here in Denmark. Like learning a crucifix and going upside down is part of the trial class curriculum. I've
Wow.
stopped teaching that to my trial classes because I don't feel like that's trial class appropriate. But there's so many studios that do things very differently. So I was inverting from the get-go. I wasn't inverting correctly, hence the shoulder pain that I had very early on. And nobody really explained like the technique of it. People were just like, now we get upside down. But I will say I did gymnastics as a kid from when I was 8 to when I was 12 or something like that. So I've always, and like I did a lot of trampoline and have always been able to do backflips and stand on my hands and do cartwheels and stuff like that. I've always really enjoyed that. So for me, going upside down is very like second nature. Being able to lift yourself upside down, however, that took forever. I remember there's one teacher in my studio who's very adamant about like no jumping, like you
Mm-hmm.
have to lift. And I remember when I started taking her classes, I was like, oh yeah, that makes it harder. That makes it much harder. Um, so yeah, probably the
I
first group.
feel that in my core because same as you actually. So you and I have been pulling for the same amount of time. I took, I think, one class before
Hmm.
lockdown happened. And then I think I was able to take one private during lockdown because I was like,
Hmm.
I really like this. And then like I moved after lockdown and stuff. So like pulling consistently was really hard. And a lot of my inverts, I would just like jump because I didn't have proper technique. And I
Yeah.
went to a random studio as I was traveling one time. And the teacher was like, why are you jumping in your invert if you can hold an Aisha? You
Okay.
you are able to invert. And I was like, because this is how I've been inverting at this point for like two
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel that in my core. I get
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I kind of
Exactly.
wanted to ask a little bit more about your journey as well. So you said, okay, you were shown how to invert on like class one, and great, you had like cross training that really did come and like service you for your pole.
Hmm.
How did you go from like, yeah, that first class, and like you said that it was like COVID and all that, and then you got really into it? How did you get really into it? Like, how much were you training?
Hmm.
How did you go about it?
Hmm. Um, so I think I was training maybe 2 or 3 times a week. And so in the start, I was just taking classes as a student, and I was taking beginner classes, and beginner classes are about an hour, like 55 minutes. And then sometimes there would be like a strength class before or a stretch class after. So sometimes I would make it 2 hours. But it also took me a while to understand like that the flexibility classes were a thing and that, flexibility helps to pole dance. So I didn't take those classes for so long because I was like, what do you even do in flexibility? It's like yoga. Um, so it took me a while to get that. But so I was training maybe 2 to 3 times a week, and I think I was also still going to the gym in the start because I, for many years, like have just gone to the gym to train. And it's kind of been like on and off in periods. Sometimes I did it a lot, sometimes I did it less, but going to the gym has been kind of a staple for me. So I think maybe I still had a gym membership, but that stopped very quickly because I figured out, if I can use energy and I have like a certain amount of energy that my body can give me every day, I'd so much rather use that in the studio than at a gym. Um, so yeah, I think it was 2 to 3 times in the start, but again, it went quickly, and my shoulders were suffering a little bit in the beginning. Never like a major injury, but just enough that I was having like pain and inverts, and it took me a while to get that pain away. Um, so yeah.
I also feel that, especially
Hmm.
because now I own like a full studio, so I see a lot of beginner, and I feel a lot of them that go from like 0 to 100.
Hmm.
I'm like, you're gonna find new muscle groups that you didn't know existed because they come back the day after and they're like, oh my God, my forearm's so sore. Yeah,
Yeah,
when else are you like using it to push whole body weight if you're not somebody who like actively trains or cross trains in something else,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then so going from 0 to kind of 100
Hmm.
is kind of how you went about it.
A little bit.
What naturally came to you as
Hmm.
like something that you felt like was easier for your body, and what did you struggle with and maybe needed to spend a little more time on?
That's a good question. Um, I think a lot of the strength-based stuff did come to me quite naturally. Like I have always had quite a strong build. Um, so so stuff like having the strength to climb, there's a difference between the strength and the technique, but having the strength to climb came like pretty naturally. Having the strength to invert, again, not with the technique, but just doing it itself, like I could also do. So I feel like the strength was there, but I think the flexibility was difficult. I feel like my hips have always, I've always, my one split on my left side has been okay since gymnastics. It's not been like a touchdown split, but I've been okay flexible. And then my other side has been horrible. My middle split has been horrible, and especially my upper body. I'm very stiff in like my back and my shoulders. Even now, like I can open my shoulders in certain ways, but in other ways, like no. Even like just putting your hands behind your back and then lifting your arms, like I literally can't really do that. So I love doing that in my stretch classes because I tell people this is how I'm going to demonstrate it, but this isn't how it's going to look when everybody else does it because I'm probably the worst at it. So that was tricky, like the shoulder flexibility stuff, like a ballerina looked so easy. I remember seeing a video of somebody doing a ballerina from the ground. I was like, oh, that's super simple. And then I remember trying it and being like, I do not have the flexibility for that. So yeah, I think that was yeah, I think the flexibility and the mobility would have been what was difficult for me. And it was painful. I mean, but it's painful for everybody. But oh my goodness, it was so freaking painful in the start. It still is, but and I don't bruise easily either, but I got so many bruises and like some of my bruises were like deep. I mean, it was like huge like welts almost.
Mhm.
But again, I think everybody experiences that.
I try to keep telling people like it gets better,
Hmm.
but and then I'm like, I'm not sure if it gets better or we just get used to it. Because
Yeah.
I try to tell everybody that will listen that
Hmm.
I'm like, as a beginner, I was like, everything hurts, like hurts. Like doing a pole sit, I'm like, oh my God, this is the worst feeling I've ever felt.
Hmm.
No, thank you. And I'm like, yeah, now I can go to a sit and I just relax in a sit. But I go to advanced class for myself as a student. And I'm
Hmm.
like, wow, this move really hurts. This exact position really hurts. I'm like, it's always going to really hurt
Yeah.
at some point. Just get used to that specific kind of hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then like,
I've almost started saying to my trial classes, I had one today, and I've almost started saying, if your shins hurt while you're climbing, then you're doing it right. Like,
mm-hmm,
sadly. If your thighs hurt while you're climbing, then you gotta scooch the butt away from the pole.
yep. And then, yeah, I love how diverse pool is. And the more I do this podcast and I chit chat with everybody,
Hmm.
the more I think, yeah, it just such a sport that there's just so many aspects to it. So you can be really good, like strength wise, but you still have to put in the time for like the flexibility. Some people really struggle with like learning how to go upside down. Some people really struggle with like the spin and like not getting
Yeah.
dizzy and like
Yeah.
knowing where you're at in space. Like, so depending on anybody's background, what the challenges for their specific pole journey is going to be is very different.
Hmm.
I think that's something that keeps everybody coming back.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
also feel the more I have guests on, the more I'm like, you have to be a certain type of people to
Mm.
love pole at
Yeah.
the level that people are now at. I feel you have to be someone who like really enjoys a good challenge and is in the
Yeah.
mindset of like, I am gonna conquer something and I'm gonna
Hmm.
go above and beyond.
Yeah.
And
I
yeah,
think you
I
really
love
have to
talking
love
to
it.
all the guests because I'm like, yeah, I see the mindset in people nowadays.
Hmm.
Okay,
And it's,
and I,
yeah. Sorry.
sorry, go for it.
No, I was just gonna say, I think I've heard that is for everybody and everybody can take a trial class. But I do think there is such a difference between taking a trial class and actually sticking with it because you really have to actually love it and really like the sensation of polling to get through those first months where everything is super painful. Um, so it's a funny dynamic. And I've never met a single person who said, "Oh yeah, I pole dance every now and then. It's just kind of a side thing that every now and then." I've never heard that. Everybody's like, "Yes, I do pole dance. It's my life."
It becomes an obsession. And I was going to say, I do want to say I see kind of two clans, and both are perfectly all right, right? See the people that are obsessed, but they do pull as a hobby, right? That's their sport, their time with some community, their time where they're feeling themselves. And then I see people, a lot of the guests that are on, because people live off of their pull at this point, a lot of the times, we're like, it is a mindset. They're like, I eat,
Mm.
I train, I sleep to make sure that I'm peak performance for like my pull. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, that's where I'm like the mindset of like athletes of like,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's a lot of what I really enjoy as well, especially with this podcast, is I meet a lot of people with like an entrepreneurial mindset.
Mm.
And I love how some people are really able to creatively, and I feel you're one of them, and we're going to get to that, to creatively kind of build a business or a name for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Let's just get right into it because I'm
Yeah.
super excited. You're the first guest that I have on the podcast that like really is known for like pull retreats and stuff like that. So I kind
Mm-hmm.
of really do want to get to it. I think it's so interesting for a lot of my viewers and listeners. Can you take us from like, okay, so you're now like training for your pull and all of that. What is that journey till how did you come to like, you know what, I'm gonna like start a pole retreat? Like where are we right now in that kind of timeline?
Yeah. Okay. So I started pole dance. I didn't know that pole dance was a thing on Instagram, actually. Um, so I think first times I was like looking for pole inspiration, I think it was just on YouTube or Google, and that is actually really bad, or like it's not the same.
Yeah.
And then after every class, I had like these little videos from class, and I'd go home and I'd show my boyfriend, and I'd be like, "Look," and he'd be like, okay." He gets a little bit confused about what's what, and then he'd say, "Oh, that's so cool at my climb," and then I'd invert, and he'd be like, "Oh," and I'm like, "But that's the part you're supposed to." Anyway, so I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe I should start posting this to other pole dancers who understand like and I had actually been offline. I had deleted my own personal Instagram account after watching a documentary about social media, and that's all very ironic now, given my current situation. Um, but so I started an Instagram because I realized lots of other like beginner pole dancers were just posting on Instagram as like a log of their own progress. So it's not any finished product. It's literally just kind of it's like your own little video diary that you're sharing with others. And I love that idea. So I did that and I'd been dancing for what, maybe a year when I started my Instagram, maybe 1.5 years, something like that. So I was still relatively new. Um, and then I remember the first time I felt like my Instagram wasn't just my own little thing was in 2 years ago, in February 2023. I'd had my Instagram for about a year. And I remember somebody tagged me, and I was like, why is this person tagging me? And they had tagged me in something that they had been inspired by my page. So they wrote like combo inspired by Hang with Juliet. I was like, what? I was like so flattered. I was, oh my goodness. And I showed it to my family, and I was on holiday in Thailand. And like, it was such a big moment for me. And then slowly but surely, other people started tagging me as well. And then somebody had written like that she had taught this in a class. And so the whole class, like 10 other people also tagged me. And I was like, what? And then fast forward to about a few months after that, like it went pretty fast. I think when this first person tagged me, I had about 1,000 followers. And then by the time I hosted my first retreat or started planning it, I had, I think I had maybe like 25,000 followers or something like that. And it had gone quite fast. I mean, like over just a few months, it had really grown. And and it was somebody from Trova Trip, who is the retreat company that I do my retreats with. They had reached out to me on Instagram. So I could see in my DM requests that somebody had written, "Hi, are you interested in hosting a pole retreat, something, something?" And I was like, this is a scam. So I didn't really, the person asked for my email address, and I was like, I don't wanna answer that. Like, why would I give this random person my email address? And then I was like, you know what? Even if it is a scam, maybe he is allowed to have my email address in case it isn't. So I give him my email address, and then he sends me an email about like, oh, Trova Trip does these retreats with different hosts, and we could see if you could be interested, if we should do something together. And I was like, what? And I was teaching at this point in time, but I hadn't been teaching for very long. Um, I mean, I'd only been teaching for a year. And I just remember feeling so out of my depth and still thinking that it was a scam, even after that email. So for the first meeting with Trova Trip, where, they didn't interview me, but we had a meeting to kind of figure out, like, if I would be interested in doing a retreat, what type of retreat, where it would be. And then there's like this survey that you have to send to your audience, and you have to get a certain amount of interest for the company to like take a chance on you and plan a retreat with you. And for this first meeting, I had my boyfriend next to me because I really wanted him to kind of like gauge with me, was it a scam or not? Are these legitimate people? What's their business model? Like, and I remember right before this person had reached out to me on Instagram, I had heard of a pole retreat for the first time. I had no idea. I didn't even know it was a concept. And then somebody that I was training with, or in theory a student, she said she was going on a pole retreat. And I was like, a what? And she's like, oh, it's like a group travel where people, or most people, don't really know each other. And then they travel to some place and then they explore, and they also have pole workshops. And I was like, that sounds amazing. And I remember coming home to my boyfriend and showing him this host on Instagram. It was Louise, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce her second name, Louise Wrzinski, I think, maybe. Um, Also a big inspiration. But I remember like seeing that she was hosting this, and I remember being like, so she gets to travel and like host workshops abroad and like for the sake of pole dance. I was like, I was like, whoa, could you imagine
Sign
what
me up.
type of, yeah, I was really like, what? I mean, that must be the craziest experience ever. And so I think it was just a few weeks after that that I had gotten this message from Trova Trip. Fast forward to this meeting where I'm like, I can't do this. I've only been dancing for like 2 years, and I am just faking it till I make it. And nobody knows that, but I am faking it. Like, I felt so I even said at the meeting, actually, I think I said, I think this is a little bit out of my, this is out of my league. I think I even wrote because I was like, there's no way I can do this. And then they said, you know what? You can put the survey out to your audience. You can see what happens, see if there's interest, and then take it from there. And I was like, okay, I mean, that's true. I have nothing to lose. But I was so stressed when I first posted about my like retreat and the option for it. And so I got enough answers to host a retreat, and then based on the answers and based on what Trova Trip has as collaborations in the world, we chose Bali. And then I was going to promote my first Bali retreat. It was over Easter. I was in a summer house with my family, and I had a meeting with Trova Trip that took me a little bit by surprise. I didn't quite get that that was the meeting where we were going to plan the whole thing and we was going to be like set in stone. I thought that was just the meeting we were going to brainstorm. But no, the brainstorming phase was over. They are quick. So I was like, oh goodness, this is happening. And I remember like I was like, how am I supposed to launch this? How am I supposed to like give this to my followers? It seems so weird. Like, are people just gonna judge me? Like, who is she to think that she's gonna host a retreat? And I remember posting it, and I was so stressed that I had nightmares, and I was talking in my sleep. And I remember waking up that night, the first day where I had like posted information about the retreat on my stories. And I wake up in the middle of the night, and my sister and I are sharing a room, and I'm holding like the edge of a curtain that's fallen down, and she's holding the other edge, and she's like, Julia, what are you doing? And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why are we sitting like this? And she's like, Julia, you've been screaming in your sleep. You like pulled down the whole curtain. You keep on saying that like your retreat is soon, people are coming. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. So we put the curtain back. And then later that day, like before the sun rises, I think it was like 5 o'clock in the morning, I stand up from my bed and I'm opening the door and I'm like, the retreat people are coming. I have to let them in. And my sister's like, Julia, get back in bed. I was so stressed. Um, but it went well. And since then, people have like, it's such a rewarding experience to put work and effort into something and to have like a dream like in your own head and for other people to also believe in that dream. And like, it wouldn't happen if people didn't book, but people did book and people have been booking since. And so it's a huge honor that people like trust me. And that people follow me on the internet. I could be AI for all they know, and yet they want to go on like these group travel things with me. It's the best thing in the world, and it's still very hard to believe, to be honest. And my heart still like pounds so badly every time I launch something. I'm just like sitting there like nervously trying to eat my chips, but not being able to eat because I'm so freaking nervous. And it's such, yeah, even now I can feel like my heart rate going up because it's such a big experience even now.
I have like so many questions. Okay.
Okay,
One,
go for
I
it.
am with you because I didn't really know pole retreat were a thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
probably since a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I now know they exist because one of my instructor actually came to one of your retreat and she's the
Oh
one
my
who told
goodness,
me,
really?
yeah. And then she's
Wait,
like,
wait,
"Oh, I'm
who's
going on a pole
this?
retreat." I was like, "Pole retreat? What are you talking about?" And she told me about it. And I've
Mm-hmm.
been following you ever since because she's one of my instructor. I follow her on
Mm-hmm.
Instagram and then she's in Bali
Mm-hmm.
posting and posting. And I'm like,
Wait,
okay,
is it
I need to
Marie?
follow
Because
this
Marie's
person,
from
that
Canada.
person. And like,
Yeah.
it was crazy. It looked amazing.
Aw.
But then I do have a bunch of questions for you. So,
Mm-hmm.
one, are you happy that that meeting, they're like, okay, now let's set it in stone? Because do you feel like by yourself, maybe you would have like dragged on, be like, oh, I need to be a certain level, I need to have this amount of people that follow me, this, but having like an other person being like, no, we're doing it, let's like how much,
Yeah.
I'm sure it was like very stressful. Like as you said, it is very stressful.
Yeah.
But was a part of you also glad to have somebody who was organizing and like kind of kept you on track?
100%. It would not have happened if it hadn't been somebody that's also like, let's do it and see what happens. And their business model is such that you don't lose anything if you plan a retreat and it doesn't sell out or if it doesn't confirm, if there are not enough bookings, you don't have to pay them for the work and effort that they've done to plan it and to put like a booking page. Like they also lose that, but you both kind of agree to give it a chance because you both think that there's a chance that it will happen. So I really did have nothing to lose. But like if I were to plan it myself, I mean, I've planned my own like weekends in Copenhagen, but that was also after my first retreat that I kind of got that idea, like on a much smaller scale, like hostels in 3 days and not like 4-star hotels and travel to other continents. So I'm so happy that they reached out to me because if not, it wouldn't have happened. Never in my wildest dreams. Like, and I am a perfectionist and I'm also like a control freak. So I think if it were up to me, it would just the constant strive for something to be like absolutely perfect. Like you're never actually going to get there. So it might never have happened.
By the time Bali happened, how
Mm-hmm.
many followers did you have on Instagram? Because before we started this podcast, Julia and I were chatting. You're also on TikTok, but most people, like the bulk of your social media branding, will be on Instagram. By the time Bali happened, do you kind of remember where you were at and how did that keep on growing? Because at the time of this filming, and it's a pre-recorded podcast, so viewers, listeners, like this was filmed a couple of months before you guys see or hear us. Yeah, at the time of filming, you're just shy of 130,000 followers on Instagram.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So where were you at Bali? And where are all these
Yeah.
people following you from?
Yeah. So that's a good question. I don't remember how many I had during Bali. I don't remember. I mean, it did increase, so whether it was like 40 or 50, I can't remember. But I will also say I started mostly on TikTok. I did post on Instagram, but I focused more on my TikTok because I also didn't have like friends on my TikTok, and it was a little bit awkward to post to be like, oh, like my high school friends are following me, like, hmm. Um, and I was posting on my TikTok for maybe a year, and I think I had around like 10,000 followers on TikTok until the day comes where I invite my dad to join me in the pole studio, and he does this video where he's wearing these tiny little shorts that were hanging in the pole studio that I didn't even see him put on. He went to the bathroom and he came out wearing these shorts, and I was like, Papa, you can't wear that. Also because like they're for sale. I mean, um, and then he like swings around the pole with a pole strap and he's like shouting, I'm a pole dancer. And my sister gets it on video and I post this on TikTok and that goes viral. So in about a week, that one video gets 18 million views and I get 100,000 followers on TikTok just like
Wow.
in a week. And I'm like, that's really nice, but people aren't here for me. So I was posting my videos and people would be like, so that's great that you can do this, but what about pole dance papa? And I was like, okay. So, it was great to get that sort of online traction, but I could really feel, I was like, people are following me because they think I'm going to post funny videos of my dad. And he lives abroad. He was here for like this one visit. So I have like, I think I made 5 videos of me teaching him pole dance, and they're all hilarious, but it wasn't going to be a regular thing. Um, so that's when I actually just shifted to Instagram and just focused on my Instagram. And I think at that point in time, I had 1,000 followers on Instagram, and people weren't following me like from TikTok to Instagram. So like on Instagram, it took way longer to get followers, but I knew that these people were following me just for me. And I remember, I think there was a Father's Day where I actually posted this pole dance pop-up video and I took it down again because I was like, it's going viral on Instagram too. No, I don't want that because I really don't want people to follow me for my dad. Um, so I think I even deleted it because I was like, I work so hard for my pole dance videos. He does one little spin. No. Like, but
You
yeah.
cannot outshine me. I put in the work for this.
I was really like, are you kidding me? Is that all it takes?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you a little bit of whiplash, but
Hmm.
we, and when I say we, it's mainly me, but I will I will act like my viewer and my listeners are thinking what I'm thinking. Can you break down actually like what would a pole retreat really entail? Like, okay, great. I took a flight. I'm now in this like destination that we've decided on.
Hmm.
What happens? Like, what are the days looking like?
Hmm. So I think it depends on the type of retreat. My retreats have been, the first ones have had more activities than they do now because I realized very fast that it's a packed itinerary, even though on paper it looks like there's tons of free time. But then you get there and there's a lot. So now there's a little bit more room to breathe. But so you get on a flight, you arrive in a foreign country, everybody's super nervous. Everybody writes to me that they're nervous, and I write back, I'm also nervous. Like, I know I'm the host, but I'm also nervous. Um, and then you arrive at a hotel, you check in, the lobby knows that there's like a group of people and that it's a retreat and Tropa trip. You get your room key, you meet your roommate. So most people are sharing a room. You can also, for a bigger price, like you pay more if you want to upgrade to your own room, you can do that as well. And then all the retreats start with a welcome dinner. So the first evening, we've probably seen each other before then because I'm going around in the hotel, like scouting the hotel, scouting the locations. So we've probably spotted each other before then. And I stalk all of my travelers on Instagram before. So sometimes I also know like what they look like, even though I haven't seen them before. But then there's a welcome dinner where everybody meets, and we have a local guide who also meets us for the first time at that dinner, and everybody talks and there's a little mingle, and I either have little conversation cards with, or for my last retreat I had like these hot topics and like pole dilemmas to get people like discussing pole topics as like icebreakers and stuff like that. And then you go to bed, and then there are, sometimes it's been 6 days, sometimes it's been 7 days, but days that are a good blend of like sightseeing, going to visit whatever location you're at, where we have our local guide who tells us when to be there for the bus, who knows the bus driver, who speaks in the local language to the bus driver. So everything is planned. You just kind of have to like show up and be there, which is also really nice. And then we also have pole workshops. So for my first retreat, I only had 2 workshops. For my middle retreats, I've had 3 workshops. And then for Rio, I'm going to have 4, which is also the first retreat where I'm doing 4 workshops. Um, and for most of my retreats, they've been all level, and I've split every workshop up into 2 groups. So I teach twice, but everybody gets 1 workshop on the day. And then I've split it up in like a so-called lower level and a so-called higher level, so that there's a little bit for everybody's level. And those are kind of either on days where there's just a workshop, so that the rest of the day is like free. You can chill at the hotel. You can go to, it's very often like close to a beach. You can go for a massage if you're in Thailand, and they're really cheap. Like I was having massages every day. It was so nice. And then there are days where there's an activity either before or after the workshop. So we're going to an elephant sanctuary in the morning, we're eating lunch at the elephant sanctuary, and we're going straight to the workshop and then back to the hotel. So every retreat has its own like itinerary. And some of them, like for example, my next Thailand retreat will have the same itinerary as my last Thailand retreat simply because it worked so well. And I've tried it before and people really enjoyed it. And we got positive feedback on that one. Um, so I also do like to reuse itineraries if they work well. Um, so yeah, it's a good mixture. And all of the activities are optional. So if anybody ever has a day where they just want to chill by the pool. And I know it's a lot of impressions, a lot of social energy as well. So if anybody ever just needs to be like, I'm sitting this one out, that's totally fair game.
And then it kind of brings me to my next question because you've done Bali.
Hmm.
You just announced online, or I've just seen online that your next one is going to Brazil.
Hmm.
How do you decide where you're going in the world? Is it
Mm.
like your audience that's giving you ideas? They're like, oh, I would be really interested in that. Do you like do polls to your audience,
Hmm.
or is it something that you're like, oh, I would really enjoy this. I think people would enjoy this.
Mm.
And then you kind of build that. Like, how do you come up with what location and like the activities and all of that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Trova Trip, who is like the company that plans these retreats and like is doing all the logistical work. They have certain collaborations with different pole studios around the world. So I think right now they have 7 destinations around the world where you can host a pole retreat. So I right now in my collaborations with TurboTrip, I wouldn't have more options than these 7 set locations. Um, so I've this will be what the fourth. So I'll have done Bali, Thailand, Greece, and Rio. But when I'm choosing these locations, they also had one in Mexico, which was actually planned, but then it was canceled last minute because of something on the Mexico operator's side. It had nothing to do with TurboTrip and nothing to do with me. But so when I'm choosing these destinations, I really don't know what to choose. So I often poll my audience, and I remember with what was it? Was it Rio and Thailand? Or no, it was Rio and Mexico. No, Mexico and Thailand? I can't even remember. But I have several times asked my audience, and the answers have been like 49%, 51. And I'm like, guys, that doesn't help me. And then a few weeks later, I'll like ask again. And it's like 51, 49. I'm like, oh, because I'm so indecisive as a person. And then the first one, Bali, was simply because on the survey I had sent out to my audience, most people had voted for Bali, and then people had also voted for Europe, but it was my first retreat, and the European destinations are just much more expensive than Bali. So, it being my first retreat, it was just better to have an itinerary that was slightly more affordable. Um, but then since then, I have been polling my audience. I have been asking, okay, out of these 3 destinations, and I've been like, okay, but are you sure that's your favorite destination if the price point is higher? Like, are you 100% sure? Stuff like that. Um, so yeah, and I am also hoping I have had some other retreat companies reach out to me um, to plan other retreats that have more options than the 7 destinations that Trova Trip has. So I am also interested in exploring like other options, but I haven't done it just yet because I'm still studying and I need to I need to have the time and like the energy to explore new options as well. But I'm hoping next year to do a European treat, maybe with one of these other companies. So it
Right.
would be in like a slightly different format, a slightly more like intimate feel, less activities and more focus on just like being in like a countryside manor altogether. That kind of vibe. So,
I have a question, and maybe I'm
mhm,
overstepping. Are pole retreat something that you see yourself being able to live off of, like between that and any income you could produce out of social media? And I know you have your Patreon as well.
mhm,
Is that kind of one of your goals to live off of pole? And if
mhm,
so, do you feel like pole retreat could bring you there? Because I feel it's still a really niche. That's what I was saying at the beginning of the episode. I feel it's such a creative, also like such a like community building
mhm.
experience.
Yeah.
Is it something that you see yourself going more and more into, and is it something that could support yourself?
Mm. Oh, that's such a good question. And it's a question I ask myself a lot. because so I'm still studying right now. I have half a year left until I'm like a finished psychologist. You don't call it a finished psychologist. Like I'm done with my education to become a psychologist. So in January 2026, I am free of all my studies. And I'm so excited for that. But I'm also a little bit like, what comes next? Because I have been doing retreats and I have been doing Patreon and I have been doing all my pole besides studying, which has worked until now. And when people ask me, I do say like my plan for 2026 is to give pole a shot. Like if I give it all my time, all my energy, how would that feel? How would that generate income? How like would I be able to support myself by doing that? Um, so that is my plan for 2026 to like give it a try for a few months and then maybe apply for a psychologist job later in the year. But I'm also very careful not to let the work kind of overtake my own passion for pole because I think it's amazing to be able to have your passion as your work. Like that's such a special thing. It's like winning in the lottery. People look for that all over the place. And the fact that I found it, I so cherish it. But because I cherish it so much, I'm also very careful for it to not become like I completely forget why I started dancing because it's just work and work and work. And at the end of the day, like yes, the pole retreat is amazing, but it is also a lot of work and it's a lot of emails and meetings and so many logistical things that have to work. And then whether or not it can become like sustainable enough for like my living, the retreats are a great source of income, but they're also extremely intense experiences. So, you know, if I hosted one a month, I would definitely be able to live off of that. But I've hosted two this year, one in April and one in June. So they were like quite close. And that has also been like that's enough retreats for this half year. So I've told myself I don't want more than maybe two retreats within a span of 4 months or 5 months or 6 months because they're just so intense and it's a
They're
lot
very
to like
labor intensive. There's a lot of
yeah,
prep. There's a lot of being on when you're there, but I can't even imagine
exactly.
the number of hours of work beforehand
Mm,
and physically when you're on location on top of it.
mhm. And also just like the emotional aspect of it. Like it's such a high. It's such a dopamine high. Such a special experience. It's like eating like the most dense chocolate lava cake ever. And like chocolate lava cake is 100 times better than just like dry chocolate sponge cake. But you can't eat quite as much of it because it's just so rich and it takes a while to digest. And so, you know, I get all these friends on my retreats and there's so many experiences and I feel like I need a few weeks to kind of just like kind of come back to my little life where I'm just like Julia living in Copenhagen with my boyfriend. Um, and so I don't know if I'd be able to host like enough retreats to have like that type of income. But I do have my Patreon, and my Patreon is my main source of income. I don't earn any money from my Instagram. Sometimes I do paid collaborations, but most of my collaborations until now have been free. I'm starting to realize that like paid collaborations can be a thing, but I'm very bad at asking for money and stuff like that. I'm really bad at that. Normally, if somebody has an agent, then that agent can be a little bit more. This person needs so and so. But I love supporting one woman businesses and I love the collaborations that I do, even though they're free. So I don't earn anything from my Instagram, but I do earn something from my Patreon. And that has been like my monthly salary for about a year now, which has been such a game changer because I've been working at an orphanage and I've had other jobs that I've had to tackle or not tackle, that I've had to juggle like next to everything else. So being able to just focus on pole as like my part-time job has been so nice. Yeah. But I also I can't expect the subscribers that I have right now to stay. Like my Patreon has been steady with like more and more subscribers, but it's plateaued for like the last 6 to 7 months. And I don't know if that's going to start going down or if it's going to go up again or if it's just going to stay steady. I really don't know. Um, so I feel like it's difficult to also like rely on that psychologically. I'm always a little bit like, but I should have a backup type of income in case that number changes. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's totally fair. And I think a lot of guests we have on here as well Some people are already all in. Some people are like, I think I'm gonna give this a shot. Some people are like, you know
Yeah.
what, right now it's working like parallel my muggle life and then my pole life.
Yeah.
And I love that I get and my viewers, my listeners get to kind of see all those options. All right. You are being incredibly generous with your time, but I don't want to keep you on here forever. I
Mm.
think we're ready to go to the last segment of this episode, which we call the last grip. These are light-hearted questions that are way shorter,
Hmm.
and you can give us as much or as little info as you want. Are you ready, Julia, for the
Yes.
last grip?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Coffee or tea?
Coffee. Oh my goodness.
Morning practice or evening practice?
I'd say evening, like late, like night almost. Yeah.
Favorite song to dance to right now?
Oh my God. Um, Charlotte Cardin. I'm probably butchering that name. She has a lot of really great songs. I think she has one that's called Meaningless and
Stop it.
one.
She's my favorite to dance to. She's from Montreal,
Oh,
Charlotte Cardin
really?
in
Yeah.
French, but
Okay.
everybody where I'm, because now I live in the English world, everybody's like,
Yeah.
Charlotte Cardin.
Yeah.
I love her. All her songs. Okay, I love Meaningless. And for
Yeah.
viewers, listeners, I really like Phoenix
Mm-hmm.
and Confetti. They
Mm.
really
Yeah.
dance well too.
Yeah. And Next to You, I think, is another one that I'm also
Yes, yes, yes,
loving.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, she's
That's a good
amazing.
one.
Yeah.
Heels or barefoot?
Perfect.
What is your most loved pole outfit or pole accessory?
Too. I do love uh a good leotard, but I also love just a good set of activewear with like shorts and a sports bra and hair claws. I actually have one right here, like this hair claw. It's just I love like a little ornament for the hair. And it keeps your hair in place like really well, which is so important for me because I'm so bad at dancing with my hair down because I just can't stand it. Ugh. Yeah.
Spin or static?
Spin.
Choreo or tricks?
Choreo.
Love or hate conditioning?
10% love, 90% hate.
Can you tell us two or three pole accounts, pole artists that you follow that we should know, that we should like as well?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there is somebody from Tallinn that's called Lisann, double Lisann. I am enchanted by all her videos. Then there's a person from a studio here in Copenhagen. Her name is Anna, and her pole name is Dana Nasita, like all in one. And she's also just, she's strong and she's flexible and she has so much flow and just looks like a goddess. Like, my goodness, yeah. And then there's also someone called Susie. I can't remember her full Instagram name. Is it like Susie OWE or something like that? And Susie with like a Z. She's also absolutely amazing. She's in Poland and I've been following her for like
I think I
forever.
follow her as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, she's amazing. And she has her own pole studio and she owns it with a bunch of others. And all of these women are just like powerhouses of pole dancers. They are amazing. And so I so want to come and just visit them. Um, yeah.
All right. And then my two favorite questions to ask. Can you tell us your nemesis move or nemesis family of move?
Mm. I really struggle with handsprings. So that would probably be, and I've also really struggled for a long time with my crescent moon. I really don't like laybacks and stuff like that. They creep me out a little bit, even though I can do them.
That's valid.
And yeah, and I think my favorite moves would be any like ballerina variations, figurehead variations. I also love anything like that starts from an inside leg hang.
All right. And then that is it for us today, Julia. Thank you so much for being on. I will put in the caption down below Julia's Instagram handle as well as your Patreon. So make sure you give her a follow and that you support our pole artist. And thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you so much. It's been absolutely lovely. Thank you for having me. And thank you for even just having this podcast and having it exist. Such a
You're
good
so
idea.
welcome. Thanks for joining us on Between the Poles. If you love this episode, be sure to hit follow and leave us a review. It helps more pole lovers find the show. And for exclusive bonus content, behind the scene footage, and extra pole goodness, follow us on Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next time, stay strong, stay connected, and keep spinning your story. This was Between the Poles.